Welcome to our live sessions with artists, designers, illustrators, and creatives all over the world. And today, our guest is a very talented artist, Vanessa Fabre. She's a multimedia artist based in Brooklyn, New York. And Vanessa uses her artistic voice to celebrate her identity as a Latina and amplify the stories of her community. And so today our topic will be the art of belonging, fostering community and celebrating identity. I think it's a very important topic, and I suppose we haven't talked much about that before in our live sessions. So today it would be a wonderful opportunity to talk about cultural identity for artists, community impact, of course, about creative process and some art business tips for artists. And you're very welcome to sign up to these free newsletters. If you don't want to miss any highlights from these interviews, then you will get everything into your inbox. And also, please feel free to answer you. And also about Fanesha, that she has been featured in collaborations with major brands like Starbucks. Oh, hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Good
Hi.
morning. It's morning in New York. It's 9 a.m.
Uh, oh, Nanu. Thank you so much for joining so early.
Yes, thank you for having me. I've been following actually your account for a long time. Yes, I
Thank you
love
very
your
much.
work.
Thank you. How
I'm
are you
pretty
today?
good. I'm pretty good. Excited to talk and chat.
Let's start into journey from the journey into your art. Please tell a little bit about your artistic background. How have you started to create? Do you have any special education?
So
Everything you would love to share
I
with
my
us.
my I grew up in an artist home. So my father is an artist as well as a sculptor and a painter, and he taught in Dominican Republic. He taught in a university, but he also was like he taught himself pretty much how to paint and sculpt. He came from a very poor background. He grew up like literally in the mountains and had like his first shoes when he was like 14, and he would walk from the country to the city to go to school. So I grew up around that and seeing him uh, as his career progressed. I grew up as a child going to his art shows, etc. So I was already in. I grew up seeing him and watching him. He never taught us how to draw. Like my whole family is knows how to draw just by I don't know the DNA. I don't know, but he never kind of intervened in our creative process either. He just let us create. Then when I got older, I was always painting in high school and drawing. And I was like, it was something that was very natural to me. But then I went into the music industry and I was there for a bit. I put music aside, art aside, and was in the music industry for about 10 years. And I was like, this is not for me. This is crazy. This is too much. I'm someone that's a little bit more low key. And then I was like, you know what? Let me go back to what feels natural to me. And I was working like corporate jobs, and I wasn't happy. And in 2017, I was working actually for Apple. I was doing corporate for them. And I was like, this is a great company, but I am not happy. I can't keep doing this. I'm 42, 40. I'm going to be 40. I'm 43. I'm going to be 44. This is 2017. I was like, this is now or never. You have to take the plunge and go full with art. And back then I already had an Etsy shop, and I was like selling handmade goods. I was selling, so I was like, okay. So if I'm making money here, if I put my all to this, then I could potentially live off my art. And I quit my job. Woo! I quit. Sorry, my tripod. I quit my job with Apple, and it's been since 2017. I just dedicated. I was actually selling handmade goods for a long time, and then a couple of years ago, I transitioned to illustration. I still sell things on my shop, but the main focus for me right now is illustration because it's I don't have to spend money on supplies. Everything's done through an iPad, and also financially, illustrator illustration work pays me more because I do a lot of corporate art. So yeah, that's been the journey. I just be always like in the creative field, but this has been where I've narrowed it down to where I feel the most comfortable, where I feel like I'm making the best impact for my community is illustration.
And how did you make the shift from corporate work on Apple and then started to sell illustration? But as I know, you have collaborations with many popular big brands like Vans
Yeah.
and Starbucks and others. How did that happen?
So I was just when I transitioned from corporate to just creating art full time, I was just doing, like I said, handmade goods. And by word of mouth, to be honest, like I've tried everything. I've tried cold emails, like to art director. That has never worked for me. It has always been word of mouth. However, I also had like people knew me from music, right? So I already, oh my God, hold on. Let me prop this up differently because I have it propped in my this is better. People already knew me from music. So I already had an audience that was following me also from the music that I was doing, etc. And then after that, word of mouth, the collaboration that I have gotten, for example, with Penguin, I've done Vans, Whole Foods, Starbucks, all of this has been through social media, through Instagram. Um, the Penguin one, actually, my first collaboration with them was through a friend of mine who is an author, and before she even got a deal with Penguin, while she was writing the book, she's like, if we were already collaborating on our own things, like I was illustrating her poetry, etc. She's like, if I ever get a book deal, you'll be the person that I want to do my cover. And like 3 years later, Penguin gives her a publishing deal, and she's like, I want her to create my my artwork. And that's how things have happened for me. It's very random, word of mouth, people finding it, but it's been mostly for me social media. Like I just did something with the Brooklyn Nets. I've designed like a T-shirt for them that's gonna be out in January for Latin Night. They have a special Latin Night during one of the games, and they just emailed me and they were like, "Hey, do you want to?" I'm like, "Yes, of course." But I would say social media is such an incredible tool right now for everyone. It's your portfolio. You have to put your work out. There's no, like, it's great to have a website with your portfolio, but art directors are on social media consistently watching and looking, and interns are watching and looking. So you have to put your work out. Even TikTok, I'm trying to kind of learn it. I mean, I'm still I have an audience there, but not that big. But social media is where everyone's at, watching and looking, and it's been a true testament for me that most of my work has been through my Instagram.
And so Instagram is the main
Yeah.
tool for you, right?
Is that's my main I have other social media like Pinterest, but social media, Instagram has been the most consistent one where people know that I'm there, they find me, um, and they are always inquiring about work.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any tips for the artist how to gain engagement, views on Instagram exactly?
I would
Maybe you
say
have some rules for yourself.
so. I post every day. That's not something that's doable
Uh,
for people. I do this 20, like this is my work. Like I freelance, so I have the time to do that. Um, if you can do that, post consistently more than once a week, I would say, because you don't want to get lost like in the shuffle of the algorithm. That's one thing. You have to be consistent at least every other day, at least twice a week or something. But consistency, because you don't want people to forget you, and your audience can't forget you if you take too much of a break on social media, because there's just too much happening. um, Now for audience, like getting an audience, what I have learned throughout like my 7 almost 8 years of doing this is like you have to be authentically yourself. Like you cannot be anybody else, you can't copy anybody else, because that translates in your work, for me. I know my work is it talks about my experience as a Latina. Like everything that I do, that has been my voice that I chose to work on. When I create something, I have to make sure that this is somehow related to that, because that's all I can talk. I mean, that's all I know, right? So, I talk about nostalgic things, our grandparents, our foods, our things that bring back memories, because I am an immigrant, right? I came here when I was 8 years old. Um, I was undocumented here for a long time because, my visa expired. And so I have experience with feeling nostalgia about not being able to go back home, like not being able to be in my country and things like that. So my work is also part of that. My work is remembering things that I love about my community, my culture, so I don't forget it, because for example, I still can't travel back to Dominican Republic. So I want to keep that alive because I'm very proud of who I am and where I come from. So as an artist, as an individual artist, you have to find your voice. Like, what message, when you create something, what message do you want to put out there? At least for me, the type of work that I do, it's around that, around like what message about you do you want to leave behind? What do you want to say about you, about your experience in this life, right? For me, it's like I want to bring joy. I want people to feel connected to where they come from. And for a brief period while I was illustrating, I was like, maybe I should do something else. Like maybe I should do expand so I can reach a bigger audience, right? And that was the worst mistake I ever did, because this is what I know, and this is who I am, and this is what people connect to. People really do feel your work, right? People know when something's not genuine, when you don't really connect with it. Like if you were an actor and you're not connecting with the role, like people can feel the sense that through the screen. So it's the same thing with your artwork. Like people need to know that and need to feel that you really are connected to what you're creating. So be yourself. Don't compare. Social media makes it so hard to not compare and contrast, and and be upset that this person is so far ahead, or that's what social media does. Social media creates like this competition. That is what it's for. Like that's part of the whole thing. So the other thing is, like, don't compare, because everyone is on a different journey. Every artist is on a different journey, and it's going to look different for everyone else.
Uh, can you please give us a couple of examples? How do you express your voice, your heritage through your art?
So I would say, for example, I'll give you two different examples of works that I've done that I was like, it really solidified that it is important to have that voice and to like have a clear vision of what message you want to be put out there. So I was contacted by the Brooklyn Botanic Garden here in Brooklyn, and they were like they had an exhibit for the tropical Caribbean trees that they wanted to. It was supposed to be like a month, and they wanted to hire a creative that was from the Caribbean to illustrate the trees, the fruit of these trees that they have planted in the Botanic Garden to celebrate the Caribbean, right? They were so specific about wanting a Caribbean artist to do this, because this is what we know, right? It's like, this is what I grew up with, all these fruits and trees and things like that. So they were so specific about giving that opportunity to a creative that knows about these plants and trees, and grew up eating these things. So I was so honored. They were like, would you want to collaborate doing this? And that solidified to me, like, there is a space for everyone, everywhere. Like, your voice is important, because the last thing that I would have thought is like they were being so specific about wanting to hire a Caribbean illustrator to do just to draw these plants and trees, because I was so familiar with it. And also the Brooklyn Botanic, and mind you, that exhibit was supposed to be there for 1 year. This was in 2022. It's still there, so they kept it. They kept the whole exhibit. All my illustrations will be there probably forever. So that was huge for me. And then the Brooklyn Nets commission project was also the same. They celebrate Black History Month, Pride, etc., and they chose me specifically for Latin Night to celebrate my culture through illustration that they're going to put on T-shirts that are going to be sold for the Brooklyn Nets forever. And I got to really, I was very proud because I got to put things that are part of my culture in a t-shirt for the Brooklyn Nets. That's going to be huge, right? So I got to put like empanadas, mocha pots, which is something that like where we drink our coffee, dominoes, which is part of my culture. I got to celebrate Brooklyn as well, put things that were important to me. I got to put like a brown, black and brown people in the illustration. So for me, that was an honor. And they were also very specific about that, about like, we want someone that's Latin to do this and to be really representative of what it is to be a Latino in New York City. So my projects tend to be that way. And I also curate them to be that way. Like if I don't feel connected, I don't care how much, seriously, how much they're paying me. If I don't feel connected to what my vision is, my vision and my voice, I don't take the jobs because I have to feel, at least for me, I'm not saying that this is everybody's journey, but for me, it's important that it aligns with what I'm trying to put out there. And I feel like it's a duty for artists to like pave the way for other people. I'm older, like I would love to see more Latinas and Latinos doing the same stuff, bigger than me. You know, like I really wish that for the younger creatives, for them to know that there's a space for us, and if there isn't, then you create one. You create a space for you to be there.
Do you feel the sense of responsibility to represent your heritage in your art?
It is a sense of responsibility, but not like in a bad way. I don't think it's a sense of like, this is what I was brought here to do. Like I feel like artists, we are given a gift and we're a vessel for that. You know, like we are, like I cannot not create. If I don't create, I don't feel like myself. So, you know the feeling, like you have to get that
Mhm.
energy out, right? So for me, I know what my job is. My job is to put these things out there and so people can see it. You know, I am a strong believer that I used to listen to, I mean, I still listen to a lot of motivational stuff. And there was one story of a guy that did that. Nobody was able to do like this dash, like this, like, run dash. Like nobody was able to beat a specific time, right? It was like 5 seconds or 10 seconds of running. No one was ever able to beat that. And then one guy did it. And then after him, a bunch of people were able to beat that same mark of like sprinting. So I feel like it's the same thing. Like somebody has to break some glass ceilings for other people, right? And somebody has to make way for other people. Not just me. Everyone. There's people that I look up to that are doing it for me. You know, like a lot of my friends are doing things and I'm like, okay, that's so cool. Like they did this, so then I have the opportunity to. It's possible for them, so I can do that. So I think it's a chain reaction. Like all creatives do that for other people. We are an example of, and we all have that responsibility. But it's not like we must do it. It's like this is what being a creative is. We are opening people's minds, and we are also opening avenues for other people.
Yeah, I understand. But was it maybe at some point in the beginning a little bit scary to share such an important things to put it out there?
Oh yeah, I mean, listen, everything that I make, I critique to the last thing. You know, like I still, that hasn't gone away, but I love what I do so much that it doesn't matter. I'm very hard on myself. I think we all artists are. I critique. I like break everything down. Like, oh my God, maybe this is not good enough. That has not stopped. That's still there. Like I still have out all the time about what I'm doing. But I feel like that's not like it's not my job. It's not my job to like judge what I do. Is I just have to do it, you know? So I have to like look past my fears and like my judgment and still put stuff out there, you know? Because that's also how you get better. Like you can a lot of young creatives are like, I'm scared of putting my work out there because it's not as good as I want it to be. I'm like, well, you have to not be good in order to get better. You have to like when I compare my work now to my work for when I first started, there's a huge difference. but I draw every single day, like every single day. So it's like you have to start somewhere, and it's okay for your work to be okay, like not great. It's okay. That's part of the process.
Yeah. Um, you shared that there is a community of other artists who also share their identity, and how what advice could you give to a beginner artist who would love to find other artists who also maybe Latina or some others who um, for whom this is very important, this topic, and how they, if they feel alone, where can they find this community? What also are there some maybe, I don't know, online
So
meetings, offline
say,
clubs?
I'm not opposed to, like, I have a lot of younger artists that DM me on my Instagram, like, hey, can I
Mhm,
ask you something? But I don't mind that at all, especially
mhm,
if I know you're very young and like really green and really starting off. I would say if you look up to someone, be very like polite and be like, hey, I love your work. Do you have a second? Can I ask you something? That's me. I don't mind that. Some artists might mind that. You have to test the waters, right? But community wise, I would say I can only speak of like New York City. We have groups that people. New York City is great for that because in New York City there's museums, right, where you can walk and like go and draw and go to a room and draw, and you might find somebody else that's there and you might be their friend. There's a lot of community here in New York City for beginners. There's meetup groups, there's Facebook groups. I would say Facebook groups are really cool too because they tend to be very specific. I haven't been on Facebook in a while, but I do use the Facebook groups for specific things. Um, you can find community there. And also, if your favorite artist is having an event or something, go and meet other people that are like-minded. Go to art classes, beginner art classes. I forgot. Oh, in the United States, there's something called, I don't know, maybe out of the country there is too. It's called meetup.com. And then there's also groups there for people who, are beginner for everything actually. But you can join a group there. But I would say always be on the lookout for like your creators. Like if you follow someone that you admire, to see if they have any events going. And then go there because then you'll definitely find other people that are in the same arena of creativity, and don't be shy to reach out to one of your favorite creators. I had someone do this last week, very young creative, and I didn't have a lot of time to chat, but I did give her some advice of like, she was very young, she was like 19 or something, and I gave her some advice. I try not to give too specific advice because, like I said, every creative has a different journey. So what works for me doesn't mean that it will work for you. I always tell them to make sure that you try everything, right? Because, like I said, what worked for me, like there's a lot of things that haven't worked for me that work for other creators. So the key is to try things, to try different things and see what sticks. I tell them the same about um, to try different mediums, right? Because you might not be motivated to draw or paint because maybe you're using a medium that's not your medium. Like maybe you should be doing watercolor when you're using acrylic, or pastels when you're using gouache or something. Play around. Like I played around when I first started. I played around with watercolor, acrylic. None of that. I didn't want to draw, right? Because I didn't feel a strong connection to it. When I went to digital illustration was when I flourished because I am someone that I like to create and be able to produce, let's say, merch and stuff like that fairly quick, right? Because I do stickers and things like that. So, um, digital illustration, even though my background is like your conventional charcoal, that's my background, but I chose digital illustration because I felt the most connected with it. So I would say test out different mediums to see which one sticks with you. I would love to test oils. I never done oil paintings, but I would like that. That's something that really interests me because you can play around with oil a lot. Acrylic can be kind of unforgiving, Watercolor, you can make mistakes and it still looks fantastic. It still looks like it was meant to be like that. Um, but play around with different mediums to see which one feels the most for you. Let me see. Somebody wrote
There's a
something.
question. There's a comment. I feel so low. Not the art block, it's life. Anyway, I'm trying to go back to drawing. Any advice?
So life is hard for everyone, to be honest. Like life is lifing right now. There's so much happening in life. Like I feel like I just want to like run sometimes. Like I don't want to do. I have had like the slumps for the past almost 2 weeks. Like I have a bunch of commission work that I'm like, I don't want to look at this right now. But what I do suggest is that you don't have to don't think of art like a job, like something that you have to do. Think of it like a release. Do something. It doesn't even you don't have to aim for anything. Just draw, grab whatever your medium is, and just doodle, 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 and that typically sometimes gets rid of that block. But don't see it like a job. Like you have to do it. See it as something that you enjoy, and don't put so much pressure on what the outcome of the artwork is supposed to be. Just doodle, even or get a coloring book or something, and color, because for us I think sometimes it's worse to not to be blocked, at least for me, and then do nothing. For me it's worse, because then I get really upset, like, oh my god, like then I get like lazy, like I don't want to do anything. So what I do is like I start with something. For example, when I have a lot of commission work, and one commission seems very overwhelming for me, and I have one that is super easy where I just have to like color in or something, I start with the one that I have, the easiest one, because I know that I don't need brain power for that. I'm just coloring it, right? I don't need to think of like concepts or anything like that. So I'm like, okay, so this one overwhelms me right now, like because I still have to. I'm still working on the concept of the illustration, especially if it's like a corporate illustration where I have to make sure that it's like perfect. I start with whatever's easiest that day. And so that gets my juices flowing. Okay, so now I only have to color this in. Fine. I'm coloring it like a coloring book. I tell myself this is a coloring book. So I start with that. And once I get on that flow, then I move to the next one. And it's mostly in our head, because when we really tackle what the problem is, or what scares me, like usually when I am overwhelmed with that commission, and I finally get to it, I'm like, oh, it wasn't that bad. I was just like in my head about like not being able to perform, or making a mistake. And that's all creators, who were all like this. That's what's great, and what's not so great about it is that we overthink. We want to create the Sistine Chapel every time we work on something. Like it doesn't have to be so much pressure. You have to just have fun with it. There's nobody that's judging us. This is not school. We're just having fun. We're expressing ourselves. So I wouldn't put too much pressure on what's come out, especially when you're having a block. You have to be kind to yourself and be like, okay, I'm blocked because maybe I'm going through some emotional things. I'm depressed. I'm sad. Something happened in my life where I'm still processing. So be kind to yourself. Don't be we can't be hard on who we are.
Yeah, I love what you just said about this. And when I feel low, I like to turn on the music and
Yes.
just use art
Yes.
as a release of emotions and feeling. So it's just diving into the
We're so
process without any
lucky to
purpose.
be able to do this, right? We're so lucky to have this tool as a release, right? And not only that, we're so lucky to be able to share with other people. And and that's the thing, like we really have to, artists, we're so hard on ourselves. We really are, especially because we put our work out there in this age of social media. So we're constantly judging. We're constantly this kind of tearing apart our work because it's out there all the time. And I'm noticing that it's like you just have to be kind. You're doing the best that you can at the moment where you're at. And if it's not perfect, it's not perfect, but you're still good. You're still a good creative, and and not only are you still good, you're still doing your life's purpose. We should be lucky that we get to do this. There's people we're living other people, like somebody's dream right now. That and sometimes I really have to center myself and be thankful that I get to do this because I wanted to do this like 15 years ago, and that's when I get to do it. So when I get like that, I'm like, no, be grateful that you get to work for yourself and you have creative freedom, and then you get to do all these cool things. And when I change my perspective in that way, then I'm like, okay, like calm down, like you're gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay.
And how do you plan? How do you organize your commissions? Do you maybe schedule everything in your
Yeah,
calendar
yeah. So
or
I have,
uh,
if it doesn't get written down, it never gets done. I have a list. I have a one app that works the best for me. It's called Do. It's called To Do, but it's called Do. And I just make a list of everything that has to get done. I don't do it on the calendar because I don't check calendars that often. Um, but yeah, I have one to-do list, one big to-do list, and I just keep it's a digital to-do list app, and I just scratch it off or if it's on hold, like sometimes my clients take a long time to like reply, or sometimes they put the project on a halt. So when they do that, like there's different colors that you can assign to the project. Like sometimes if it's in a halt, it's yellow. Like I don't have to pay attention to it. The ones that are pending are red, and then the ones that are done are just off the list. But yeah, I definitely have to have a list because I'm very forgetful, and I have so much going on in my head that if I don't write it down, I will never remember that I have like other commissions written down somewhere, especially when you freelance, because there's nobody holding you accountable but you. Like you are your boss. So schedule wise, I get up at 5 in the morning. However, I do have a cat, so the cat wakes me up. He's my alarm. uh, so I get up early because of him, but he gets my day started really early. And then by 8 a.m. I start working, and by 5 I don't want to work anymore. But five o'clock is my cutoff time. No more work. I don't even answer emails after 5. But I've gotten to this point. When I first started, I was working 24/7. I had no like like work life balance. So you get to this point where you learn yourself and you learn what you can or cannot do. Um, you learn how to set your own boundaries. Like you don't want to be working 24/7. Like I don't want to be working 24/7. That's why I work for myself, right? But because you freelance, a lot of clients feel like you are accessible 24/7. So you have to set also boundaries with clients, right? You learn all of that. You have to learn how to be like, hey, I'm not available right now, or um, things like that. The most uncomfortable thing for me is setting boundaries with clients because I'm an artist. I don't want to be customer service. I don't want to be HR. So that has been a challenge for me to set clear boundaries with clients, and sometimes talk about uncomfortable things like payments and things like that. So I would say out of everything, the most challenging thing for me is like the customer service part of it, of dealing with clients. I've had managers before that didn't work, but yeah, I would say the most uncomfortable thing for me would be that. But do you see any importance for having a portfolio where usually, hold on, thank you for your advice.
the,
But do you see any
uh,
importance for having the portfolio where you usually call it? I do see importance in portfolios because not so social media is great, but not everybody also is also in social media, right? So you have to have both. I feel social media is great for sharing work and for people to reshare your work as well as like marketing, right? And but you should have a designated website with your portfolio. So, like, if an art director wants to see more of your work in one spot where it's not cluttered with other stuff, because you don't only post, some people just post their work, but I don't post just my work on social media. I post, like, some days I want to post a day to day, or I'm like reviewing like art materials or whatever. The portfolio online is useful because it's just that, it's just your work. And if an art director wants to look at the consistency of your work, because that's what they look at. Also, they want to see how consistent your look is, your colors, all of that. A website is ideal for that. So it's not cluttered. You don't want to. Sometimes you don't want to send your work where there's a bunch of stuff. The art director just wants to see a collection of like your best work. So that's what that web like online portfolios are for.
Mhm. And as a freelancer, do you often reach out first to clients, to potential clients, or
So
all of them find you on
most of
social
them find on
media?
social media. I also do reach out, but for some, I don't know, for some reason, that never works for me. I have tried it over and over again, sending my my resume, not my resume, my portfolios to art director. It never works. Every big job that I've gotten has been through Instagram. Every single one. But I'll say this: a lot of my work, not recently, but I make sure that like a big chunk of my work is reshareable media, like um a cute like meme about I would say maybe I did one that was what was it? Dominican slang, right? So a lot of the words that we use as Dominicans, I was like I made a like a slideshow of how to say it and what it means. It was like a cute infographic, right, about my culture. And that got me at least 3,000 new followers, right? Because that was very reshareable, right? Because you don't have to be Dominican to enjoy this, right? Because I'm teaching you how to speak our slang, and some of it is very funny. So also for me, what I would say is like make sure that you create as an artist not just work for you, right? But what has worked for me with marketing and getting my work seen out there is a chunk of the stuff that you post on social media has to be shareable for everyone, right? Because that is like paying for ads, but you're not really paying for ads. People are resharing your work for free, right? So that one alone got me like 3,000 new followers because everyone keeps resharing. So I make sure that I create some infographics. Like for example, in November I did like cozy things for November, like, and then I illustrated like a cute um, like pumpkin, like it was food related, right? And that always never fails. That always gets reshared, stuff like that. So I didn't think of that when I first started, but then I was like, yeah, I just can't create for me. If I want my work seen, it has to be somehow reshareable, right? It has to be, I have to create for my audience too. So they have fun, they get to be involved, they get to engage. And it works all the time. Like it's fun for me because people do engage a lot and I get to know a little bit more about my audience and what they like to see, what they don't like to see, but they also reshare and my work gets seen by people that I would have had to pay Instagram ads to get put my work out there. And I will say this: it's more probable that whoever's watching my stuff, who already follows me and shares, whoever's seeing that is gonna like my work, right? Because they are already following the people that already follow me are already in my kind of group of like community, right? So when they reshare it, there's gonna be like-minded people that are gonna come back to my page and be like, "Oh, this is cool," blah blah blah. So make stuff that's reshareable. Yeah, you have to create. Some of it has to be not just for you; it has to be for your audience as well.
So
Yes,
usually brands see your shared
exactly.
content on Instagram, and then they reach out to you. They DM
Right,
you or email you,
right,
right? Right.
right.
Okay.
Go
And
ahead.
and sorry. And then what are your top tips that works for you? What make your content reshareable?
It has to be relatable, right? It has to be relatable. So I know my audience. My audience are Latinos, Dominican, Puerto Ricans, just Latin America, right? It could be something funny. It could be foods. It could be recipes that we all know and love. Hold on, let me put this here. It could be recipes. It could be stuff that, for example, like our moms say or something. Things that we grew up with. So that would be something that would be considered reshareable. I do a lot of recipes as well, and I do recipes because not only do my like Dominican does my Dominican community reshare that and love that, right? I also get to teach people that are not Dominican how to make our dishes, right? So it becomes like educational. Um, so yeah, and it's I just not only do Dominican stuff, I do stuff that's Latin America, and then there's stuff that I target New Yorkers. I've been living here for almost 20 years, so I make sure that I also don't neglect my New York followers because they love that, right? And you don't have to be New Yorker, Dominican, Puerto Rican just to enjoy my work. You get to people that are not in that genre of people come and still enjoy it because they get to learn something new about our community, and it's fun. It's just fun, and they probably know someone that is like Dominican or Puerto Rican or New Yorker, or, like Latino or something. So I want my page to be somewhere fun, somewhere where you decompress, nothing too crazy or serious. I want people to come and enjoy themselves in my page. Like my comments are also restricted. Like I don't allow people to fight in my comments, because that's not a space for that. I don't care about like I, I'm not a big fan of arguing on social media. I don't like that. I want everyone that is following me to feel safe as well. Like I have word restrictions because Instagram, the Instagram comments have become really like brutal. The people are really mean here. So I don't want anyone that is on my page to be part of that or to be at the like receiving end of that. So I'm very particular about how my page is because I want everyone to feel good here. It's supposed to be a good time.
It's that's I'm just surprised a little bit that you say that comments might be not very kind on Instagram,
Yeah.
because I think it depends on, maybe because your topic is pretty much sharp
Yeah. Well, yeah. So
for some.
yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, you'd be surprised. People are like unhinged because I did one of like those infographics for this company called Loisa, which is like a all Latino owned like seasoning company that's very popular here in New York City and the US. So we were doing monthly illustrations celebrating our culture and their products, etc. And one illustration that I did, we have something that is like a mashed plantain called tostones, but in Dominican Republic call them fritos. It's just like a round piece of plantain that you mash and fry, right? When I so I call it two different names. I call it fritos and I call it tostones because I grew up in Dominican Republic, but I also was raised here in the United States. The fact that I called it tostones and not fritos, which is a very niche Dominican word, people fought over this in on their page for. I mean, this is the stuff that I'm talking about. It's so like silly, but people were cursing each other out. They were like not happy about this little tiny thing. Um, I named it the most known name, and that was on purpose, so everyone would be able to relate and understand what that the food was, right? Because people call it all different stuff. But people were very like angry about the fact that I didn't call it fritos, which is just a Dominican word for it. It's just Dominicans calling that, and that's it, right? And this was like a very general illustration, but this is what I mean. And people went arguing about this for days on their page, and I was like, this is so necessary. It's silly. It was very silly, but it was. I felt bad for them on their page because it was just unnecessary. Like there are people like literally like like the Kardashians say. There's people that are dying out there. Like there's people that are dying of hunger and like war, and we're arguing about like the name of a piece of plantain. It's crazy. It was too much for me. I was like, yeah, I don't. So that's why I limit some of my comments because people are very at least on social media, at least on my end. I don't know how it is where you're from, but in the US it's crazy. It's a lot. It's a lot.
No, I have a lot of followers from United
Yeah,
States, but maybe because my art is mostly about some
like patterns and
good
yeah, yeah,
vibes.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, it's not. Uh,
yeah.
the
There
last
is no
There's
arguments
no
on the comments.
controversy. There's no controversy. Yeah, here it's very argumentative. It's kind of sad because we're all just making art. I had another friend of mine who also posts a lot, and she has a bigger following. She's huge, and also she drew like a Snoopy or something. And I don't know, people found that offensive too, because she does her own art, but they're like, "Why are you copying?" I'm like, and they went off on her, like because she drew something that was like copyrighted, like us, like Snoopy. You know what I mean? So she's like, she's the most wholesome person. She creates the most wholesome illustration, and they were arguing about that. I was like, that's not good for mental health either. Like you can't just be reading stuff like this all the time. You have to be able to curate your experience on social media, at least for me and for the people that follow me. I want them to be safe on my page, pretty much,
Yeah,
because I've experienced
that's
the
important.
opposite. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me see.
Yeah, that's important. I
Yes.
agree. Um, can you please share with us your artistic dreams or some maybe nihilist goals?
Let's see. My goals for this year would be more editorial work. I really like editorial stuff. I love books. I'm already doing books, so I'm happy about that. But editorial stuff with articles, I'm getting more into that. Like I'm doing something for Eater right now for the online magazine Eater that features a lot of food articles and things like that. That is my goal. Like I had goals for book illustration stuff. That's already in the works. I'm already working a lot in books, but articles and editorial stuff, magazine stuff. That's the next goal. Like I would love to do more of that. And then if I in the long term, if I when I retire, I would love to have like also a big animal lover. The end goal, the real end goal, is to have an animal sanctuary. So all of this is for that. I would love to like continue to
Good.
I rescue animals now, so I would love to continue to do both actually, like art and mix some animal rescue in there.
Lastly, what would you tell your youngest when you first started this journey?
Hold on, I can barely hear you. I think the audio cook.
Sorry.
Hello.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
My last question.
Yes.
Looking back, what would you tell your younger self when you first started this artistic journey?
Um, wow. I would say to not be scared, to um to not be scared. I should have done it earlier. I should have waited so long and been so scared to jump into this. But I do believe that everything happens when it's supposed to, right? So I don't regret starting later in life. But if I could warn myself, I'll be like, listen, you could do this earlier than you think you could. Like it's all like we create a lot of our own walls, right? Because of our belief systems and how we grew up and things like that. So I will tell myself, you can do this way earlier than you thought you could. It's not that difficult. Um, and also like believe in yourself. Don't don't get discouraged when things get rejected, when things don't go the way that you want, because everything I believe, this is just me, I believe that everything's in order, right? So if something doesn't work for you right away, it's because it's just not the time or it's not for you, and that's okay. And you have to take life with grace in that way. Like don't push for things that clearly are not working for you, like or don't get upset when you get rejected, because rejection is a big part of this work as well. Um, Sometimes you get clients where they love what you do from the get-go, and then sometimes you get clients where they're editing nonstop, and sometimes there's clients where you start working and you don't it's not a good match. The project doesn't go anywhere, right? So you have to be okay with all those things without taking it too personal, because you're working with human beings, and human beings are complex. So don't take any of that personal. you have to be able to take rejection. You have to be able to fail and be okay. And yeah, and don't be scared to put yourself out there because everybody else is doing it. Like the world is putting themselves out there right now, and it's either now or never. Like it's okay to be you. It's okay to put yourself out there, and people are always going to critique, and you got to be okay with that as well. But yeah, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of anything because everything's always working out.
Yeah, that's great. Tanisha, thank you so
Well,
much.
thank
It was a
you.
pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you, guys. Yay.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for sharing your art
Of
with us.
course.
Have,
Have a
yeah,
great day.
have a nice day.
Bye.
You too.